Greetings, friends, and welcome to Head Above Water. This is your host, Jason Charnick. This week's episode is our Atlanta Film Festival special. Very excited to have with you Kat Rhinehart from the documentary What's Eating Ralphie May, which is partaking in a drive-in screening at the Atlanta Film Festival this year, which is very exciting. It's next week, September 24th. We'll have links and stuff in the show notes for you guys about that. If you're in the Atlanta area and you want to go out to the movies, you can go out and see What's Eating Ralphie May at the drive-in theater. I think it's called the Dad's Garage Drive-In in Atlanta. So we'll have more information about that for you in the notes. Very excited to have Kat on the show for you guys today. Kat and I have worked together before at Framework Studio, a branding company that's here in Los Angeles, California. She's an incredibly talented woman. She's made 3 features now. We talk about her 3 features, including What's Eating Ralphie May, which is playing at the Atlanta Film Festival right now. On this episode, we talk about all sorts of fun things. It was a really great conversation. We talked about raising money and trying to get meetings and proving your worth and how to network and how to try to make a movie while you're working a full-time job, how to get married while you're working on a movie, and trying to get that out and trying to get a relationship and a marriage off the ground, which is always fun stuff because I had to kind of deal with the same thing myself. So enjoy our conversation with Kat Rhinehart. We had a really good time, but before I get to the interview, I just wanted to let you guys know we're doing a little bit of a call for reviews here. I've done a few episodes in a row now. I would love it if you guys who are listening to the show, thank you guys so much for all your support. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, whatever your platform of choice is, if you could take just a brief minute out of your day and leave us a little sentence, a little short blurb, a little review, that'll help us get a little more exposure to a wider audience. We want to grow the show a little bit and introduce some more people to Head Above Water. So if you got just a minute in your day, just leave us a little review. Let us know what you think of the show, good, bad, or otherwise. So there's that. And then, I'll have some more stuff coming up on the other side. I won't bore you guys too much. Want to get you into the interview with Kat. So here's our interview with Kat Rhinehart. Stick around on the other side for other fun stuff, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Thanks a lot. All right, we are here with Kat Rhinehart today. I've worked with Kat before at Framework Studio in Los Angeles, California, editing promos and short form stuff. And what do they officially call those? They are promo pieces, branding pieces, right?
Promos. I say I cut promos.
I cut promos because to explain anymore.
Yeah.
Those if you see an Instagram ad in between your stories and you see 2 celebrities talking about swiping up and seeing our picture, most likely you cut something like that.
Right. Well, people are always like, oh, the trailers? And I'm like, no, if I was cutting the trailers, I would have a much better house. Not there.
But we are working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you got started at Framework, or how you got started, just as an editor in general, and what led you to becoming a feature film director.
Sure. So, first of all, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you.
That. Well, I went to film school at Brooklyn College in New York.
Okay. And I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Great. I was into photography. I was like an art nerd in high school, and I was really into photography. And but then I also really liked storytelling, and so I'm like, well, how do you combine photography with storytelling? It's moving pictures. So I knew I wanted to go to film school, but I didn't have any the budget for that. So I went to a college in the South where I'm from for a couple years, and then moved to New York to chase that dream.
Okay. And what year was this?
This was early 2000s. I think I moved to New York in 2004 probably. Okay. And I knew I wanted to go to film school, but I was on my own financially. So I got a job waitressing. So I was waiting tables. And then I discovered Brooklyn College, which was a City University of New York school. Mm-hmm. And they had a wonderful film program, but it was in-state tuition was $3,000 a semester compared to NYU or something.
Right, which is $20,000
something
a semester.
Crazy.
Yeah, something astronomical.
So just totally not affordable. And so I went to Brooklyn College for film production, and I loved it. I thought I got a wonderful education. There were still some of the insufferable, film school people that you would expect, but probably not as many as is you have it. In
I mean, yeah, because
NYU,
it's not one of the more famous. It's not NYU. It's not
NYU.
USC or UCLA or any.
Right. Yeah. So it was like I don't know that I feel like the students were a little scrappier, which I think is great.
Right.
I love that.
The independent vibe.
Yeah, the independent vibe. And so, and then after film school, I waited tables and bartended for forever. And because I think, I mean, I don't like to say like, oh, I regret something, but I didn't know. Well, I had to make a living. It's not like if I could do it over again, I would probably. I know now that it's like, oh, you just need to get work on set as anything, or like a writer's assistant or whatever, just to be there and like be around and make yourself likable and someone that people want to work with. Instead, my thought was, oh, I'll go like wait tables and bartend and pay my rent, and then on my days off I'll write and like develop and work on projects, and that takes so long. That's what I was doing. I was working and writing, and I'd made a documentary that I started when I was in film school about food waste, and what
was that called?
Trash Nation.
All right.
Trashed Nation.
Is that online? Can people watch it?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube.
All right.
Yeah,
you'll have to send me all these. We'll put these links in the show notes.
I mean, it's not good, but I was like, I thought I was like in my early 20s, and I was like, this is going to launch my career. This is going to premiere at Sundance, and here I go.
And it was a feature.
Yes. But I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But
as most people in their early 20s, we just don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. But I learned a lot from it. But I would like submit it to Sundance, and then so I submitted to like Sundance and I think Cannes, and just couldn't believe it when I didn't get in. And then I was like, oh, well, this movie sucks. And I just like left it on a hard drive in a drawer.
Oh no.
For years. So then I moved to LA, and but I edited that film. So I learned how to edit just out of necessity for my own projects.
Why hire another editor? I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. And I moved to LA, and I started making a web series. I wrote and directed and started like a comedy web series. I was doing stand-up, and like I just was like, I'm going to do a web series. Like, why not? And so I started doing a web series called My Super Overactive Imagination.
That you directed or started, or both?
Both. Okay. And wrote it, and then became like best friends with the other like lead, the person I like cast to play like my best friend.
That's great.
We like became best friends.
So that's good.
And really funny comedian Maria Shahada. And then she was like, I like this. I want to like write the next episodes with you. So after the first 10, we started writing them together.
That's great.
Because I knew how to edit, I got the videos out. So I put out a video every Wednesday for 7 months straight.
Wow. That's great.
So
that's like 20 something episodes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
We ended up having about 30 total, but it was a lot of work. But the only reason why I was able to put them out every week was because I was editing. Okay. I was working as a bartender. And I remember then I was friends with Tony Tallarico, who you know from Framework. And then so I had my Super Overactive Imagination, and then like I had the script Brand New Old Love for this romantic comedy, and basically was like working on that and started looking for funding. I got a little bit of funding. I got a producer. That's a whole long story how all that happened.
All right. Let me ask you about that then, because a lot of people like. So I was looking for funding, and I got funding, and then I made my movie.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about that. And I know like with the exact numbers, and sometimes you can't go into exact specifics, but we don't have to go into the numbers. And if you feel comfortable, I would love for because I've always been myself very transparent about our numbers. Because I don't want any other young filmmakers or even old new filmmakers, you know, to have any kind of, you know, pie in the sky idea of what raising money for a movie is like.
Okay.
So how did you find this money?
So I had a body of work that I had put out. So I had
you had all these little episodes that you guys self-financed 100%.
Yes, from just bartending. And they so I had 30 episodes of My Super Overactive Imagination. I was doing stand-up, and then I had the script for Brand New Old Love, and I also, around that time, a friend of mine from film school was like, you should put Trash Nation up. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think it's very good.
And that was a movie you just put in a drawer because you didn't get into Sundance or Cannes.
I was like, I didn't get into Sundance or Cannes. It sucks. I didn't even know there were like other festivals. I had no idea. I went back and watched it, and I was like, this isn't terrible.
It's not that bad.
It's definitely not the best, but it's not.
But it's your first thing, and you want to get it out there and have it be seen.
made something before that following a band around, but then that was like really terrible. But so I was like, this isn't so bad. I'm just going to throw this on my YouTube channel.
Great.
Just because it's like, it shows that I can finish something.
Yeah.
So basically there was this executive producer who was looking to fund like female filmmakers and female like comedy projects, actually web series. And I met him at a stand-up show I was doing, and he liked my web series and then was like, I'm funding this other web series. Like, will you read it and give feedback? And then we just kind of started like talking back and forth a little. And then he was like, and the web series he was funding was like objectively very bad, and like one episode was
objectively very bad.
One episode was like even like really racist.
Somebody was talking, and I can only see their ear.
No, it's just a script. It was just script. So he was like he was going to fund it.
The words were objectively bad.
Yeah, there was one whole episode that was just like really racist, and I was like, this is just racist. and he was like, and I mean, I'm like, if I'm calling this out, then like you have a problem. And he was just like so lovely and just looking to support like anyone, like any woman like trying to do it, because he just knew that there was this like dearth. At first he was like, we were working together, like, and maybe he was gonna like fund like a web series for me, and then I was like, well, I'm kind of over like having a web series for right now. I really want to make a movie. Like I went to film school. You put all my web series episodes together, that's a film. I have this script for this like romantic comedy that I'd love to make. And he was like, all right, I'll give you $50,000 to make a trailer.
Wow.
For this film.
That's great. And just the fact that you felt comfortable enough with him to not just, and this is kind of one of the things that I'm focused on about what I put under the purview of mental health is, you know, wellness and self-care, and realizing in this business that you don't need to let people walk all over you just to like have like this vision of like, I'll let people treat me like shit because I know that that's a clear path to getting my success. And I feel very strongly that no one in this business, when you're starting out, should let anyone walk all over you, that you have, and it's kind of been, you know, more of a thing, you know, you just want to, you know, have a respectful set and be respectful of others and all that, and not yell at people. And so it's one of the things that I've always considered as part of the mental health, you know, world, is having enough quote unquote self-esteem, if you will, to not let anyone treat you like shit. So some people might be like, well, they want me to do a web series. I'll just, even though I don't want to do it, I'll just do a web series and I'll do whatever they say because that's how I get the money. But you felt confident enough in your content and what you've written in the movie that you want to make to just say, hey, I don't want to do what you're asking me to do. Can you give me money to do something else? And you,
I guess.
And then you just, I mean, that's shooting your shot, if you will, and not just like letting someone, and I guess it's a little bit different. I mean, it's not like this is a guy that's like yelling at you on set or anything. So it's different from that, but you've been presented with an opportunity and it's not exactly the opportunity that you want to do for your own career. So, but you felt comfortable enough saying, hey, that's not really what I want to do. I want to do this. And he was open to that.
Yeah.
You just have to sometimes go for it.
Right. I mean, I was like, I'm going to level up. Like, it's my time.
Right.
I need to make a feature now. It's just been like, I've done all these other things. I felt I just had this like probably too much confidence in myself at the time. But you just have to, like, you have to have the like audacity to,
to just go and grab
to just
what
have
you
confidence.
want.
Yeah. So he was down to, he's basically like, shoot like a proof of concept trailer, whatever. Like, you take this $50,000 to shoot something to.
And with $50,000, I mean, you can do for just a trailer, you can do a lot with that money.
You can do a lot. No one had ever, I mean, my web series, I was funding myself with my bartending money. It was probably like $1,000 an episode, maybe. Probably like way less than that. It's like, I mean, because I was editing them myself. Like we were just paying for a camera guy, camera and sound. That was pretty much it. And food. Food is so important. Right. Especially for lower budget. So then I went out with like it's actually like a dating. I was dating this guy I met on Tinder, who was a director
in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, imagine that. But God bless them. Those male Los Angeles directors have. You think I had confidence? this guy.
Right.
So I was like,
it takes a level of ego to do that for sure.
But he had like a good, he was doing very well. And rightfully so, he's very talented. But he was like, 50 grand. He was like, I can make a feature for 50 grand. And I was like, really? You think? And he was like, yeah, he was like, you should just make a feature with that. So that got in my head. So then I went back to this investor and I was like, I think I can just make my movie for the 50 grand. I don't want to make the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, he goes, I'll tell you what, you can like say, he was like, why don't you take this 50 grand, not like he never gave it to me, but it was like, it exists in the ether.
Deal or no deal.
Yeah.
Here's the briefcase.
Right. He was like, he was like, look, don't make this movie for 50 grand, but why don't you say that you have 50 grand, like take that you have a first investment of 50 grand and then use that to like go get more, to like attach a producer, an actual real producer with experience, and like use this 50 grand to then like get more funding. Because really the first funding is the hardest thing to do.
Of course. I've never done it. My stuff is all self-financed, crowdfunding and self-financed. Really.
Right.
I've never had an investor. I've never pitched anything to anyone.
I've never pitched either. I still don't know how to get a fucking meeting. I'm sorry. Can I say fucking?
Absolutely.
Like, I'm still like, I mean, if you count Trash Nation, I've now made 3 features, one narrative and 2 documentaries, and I still can't get a meeting. I'm like, how do you, I don't know.
I honestly couldn't even tell, like, you know, I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. I don't have someone that can, like, you know.
You didn't get that after South by?
No.
People didn't come calling?
People came calling. Oh, everybody came calling. But when they finally see the movie and see that it's a micro budget movie too. My whole movie cost like all in, including even travel to Austin and the E&O insurance and all of it, about 65 grand all in. And most of it's video footage from the 90s. And I didn't shoot it on an Alexa or a Red or any of that stuff. So it's like video, and it looks, I won't say it looks janky. It's my movie. I love it. But yeah, a lot of people were like wanting a piece of me just from being in the festival. And as soon as they saw it, were like, no, which is fine. You know, I'm not I was offended at the time, you know, but you're just going through those whole, you know, all these steps for the first time. And it's just like, well, wait a minute. It does mess with your mind because like, well, South by Southwest accepted it, so it must be a good movie.
Right.
But none of the gatekeepers, quote unquote, want anything to do with it. So maybe it's not a good movie. So like that whole process also messes with your mind because at that point you don't know how the public is taking your movie, and it hasn't premiered yet. So all these people are reaching out and then rejecting you, and then so you don't know like where you stand. I've
just always thought, and this is why I would have assumed for you, it's like if you can be, I've shown I can be trusted with little. Here's what I can make for no money. Like, can you imagine what I can make with money?
Yeah, and I don't even need millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like you give me one, like someone give me one. That's why like I would love for someone to give me 50 grand.
Yeah.
Like you said, like I can make a whole feature for 50 grand. I've done it. I can show that I can do it.
Yeah.
But how do you get the opportunity to explain that to people? Like, you know, the people that make those decisions that'll give you all, you know, those bigger budgets just don't seem to care.
Right.
That you've done that.
Right. But you really just need like one person to say yes.
And it sounded like you had that, and that's what led to it.
Right. So then I made a pitch. I made a deck. So I had a pitch deck, 50 grand, and then I was like, oh, I have a friend who produced a horror movie, and he can be the producer. And we had like lunch, and this guy was like, this film is like a quirky rom-com. Why don't you go like this? And this was the best advice. And I'm embarrassed that I didn't think about it. But he was like, go look at all the quirky rom-coms that played at Sundance for the past 10 years.
And there's certainly a bunch.
And there's a bunch. And find out who produced them. And then just like contact those producers. So that's what I did. It took a bit of research. There's not just like a website.
Right.
But so it took a little bit to do all that research. But and then you do, IMDb Pro was $20 a month.
Yep.
And most producers and most people, like if you have IMDb Pro, you can go look at their contact. And a lot of it's like info at production company emails.
Right.
But
it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. So I took my little pitch deck and sent an email with like, here's who I am. Here's the stuff I've done. Here's my deck, and I have this guy who's giving me 50 grand. I'm looking for a producer. And like, do you want to read the script? And I probably emailed, it must have been like 50 producers. It was a lot. I sent out a ton of those emails. And I got one response. And that's all it took.
And that's all it takes. Yeah, that's all it takes.
One person responded.
Right.
One person wrote me back. I couldn't believe this. I mean, no one cared. Like, so only one person wrote me back, and his name is Jim Larrick, is a producer, and he'd made 2 movies, and his last movie was called Newlyweds.
So hey, let me stop you for a second because I want to ask you. So you just said like, so you only got that one response.
Yeah.
And then you said no one cares. So, because I want to explore that for a second. So, when you're getting these emails, well, you're not even getting these emails. You're puts in when you say something like when you don't hear from someone, and you say, "Well, man, nobody cares." It's very frustrating, even when you're blanketing people with emails, and then when people don't write back, it's very frustrating. So you have to fight through that as well.
Yeah, it's just a numbers game. It's like it's like a nerdy
and not
guy
take these things too personal. It's so easy. Like when you don't hear back from someone, what did I do? Why is my thing so bad? Why don't? And I mean, listen, a lot of these Hollywood people are they're busy and they're busy. They do things and sometimes they just things fall through the cracks. But it's just frustrating because sometimes even just a one-liner. Like, hey, I'm too busy right now. Thanks for thinking of me. But I gotta like even that's like, all right, cool, no problem. And that's sometimes that's all you want to hear. But when the silence comes, it just kind of knocks you back. Yeah,
it's bizarre. But like what I've learned, I mean, there's like this, I don't know the right metaphor, like an iron curtain. There's basically like we're all on this side.
The gatekeepers.
We're like all over here clamoring, trying to get over on this other side. And then like once you get through, it's like every like top tier agency, you go to their website and it's just a landing page.
Right.
There's no email address. There's no
one. You
can't contact anybody.
Right.
You just have to like, because they're over on the other side.
Sometimes you have to figure it out.
Yeah. But like it's all like you're just kind of like on one side trying to get, and that's the hardest thing is to get over that gate, like on the other side of that gate. But then it's like once you get over there, I think that like then you're kind of in. But I've learned so much of like even like with film festivals, like I would never now take a film and just submit to a film festival on Film Freeway because I know now that like you have to go through like the Film Collaborative or have like a festival represent and like there's all this
or some type of fiscal sponsorship or something like that.
It's like, and I've learned everything just by making mistakes of how the game is played. That it's like we're over here playing checkers and it's chess. But I just didn't know that. I mean, but you really know.
Everybody has to kind of learn that on their own.
You have to learn that on your own. I mean,
it's part of like, you can tell, and especially when I'm meeting other, young filmmakers who are having their first feature on the circuit this year or last year when I had already been through it, you can tell people your experiences. Oh, this is what happened to me. But like, until you live it, until you're right in the middle of like, I mean, I know how distribution works, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to sit down with the vice president of Gravitas and negotiate a deal.
Right.
Right. Like there's a disconnect there that like you can only, until you experience it. Yeah. Can you really like, take it to heart?
Right. Well, everyone's going to be the exception. Right. Like I was going to be the one exception. My film was going to get into Sundance this way because they were, I was going to, I've always been like, oh, I'm going to be the one exception. I'll be the one who breaks this record. It has some like phenomenal, just some like amazing thing happens. But
which on some level is good. Again, like I was saying before, to have that confidence in your ability is like something to be, congratulated, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the success.
Right. I guess you do just kind of have to have that like dumb confidence and then just like continue and like and get kicked
and maybe be stupid enough if you will to just take the blows and not take it to heart
and that
was always my problem. I take everything so personal and it's hard not to. Like it's funny that you should like say that you won't go through Film Freeway or whatever. Like Getting Over got into South by Southwest as a completely blind submission.
I know. I remember you telling me that. I couldn't believe
anybody. Like I was literally in your shoes. I had made a couple shorts before, put them, with my own money, put them on YouTube for free. When we were done with Getting Over after a long 6-7 year, production period, I mean, I sent it into all the big ones and South by accepted it. I didn't know anyone. I didn't ask for a waiver. I was 100% just blind submission.
That's crazy. That's so rare.
I'll talk to it's incredibly rare. And I'll talk to people that like think I did something special. And again, it's the whole point of the show, because there's this, and it's, jealousy is, I've used the word jealousy, but it's kind of overstating it, because like I'm not jealous of anyone else's success. I just want it for myself so bad.
So you're seeing what they do.
It kind of, you kind of get a little green with envy, but people feel that way about me and what my movie did. And here I am feeling the same way about you and what your movie did. Like, I never had anyone say, here's $50,000.
Right.
I'd rather have that than struggling and begging people and taking loans out from my in-laws and all this other. I'd rather just have somebody, like, I'd rather not get into South by, not that I'd rather not get in, but like if someone said, here's $50,000 to make your next one, or this thing will happen, I'm like, well, I'll make the next one and then that'll happen. So there's this weird little chain of kind of envy where like the grass is always greener.
It's so true.
You don't know the struggles that other people are going through with their own stuff, and you just think that it's like,
it's so true. No,
joy.
Yeah, I always feel like such a loser, and I'm always like, oh, I'm not there yet. And every time I like go on Facebook or the internet, it's like I'm like, everyone is more successful than me, and they're younger.
It's tough to get out of that.
I have a hard time with like women filmmakers who were like in their 20s going to Sundance. I'm always like so jealous, and then I'm like, I'm such a loser. I haven't made but like I'm not. I mean, I feel like a failure.
Yeah, you just feel like what else do I have to do? I've already sent all these emails. I've done all of this stuff.
Right, but then so like I feel like a failure. And then there was like another editor who like looked me up and was like, can I take you to lunch and just like, you've made all these movies, like, but he was just, can I like pick your brain about how you've like done this stuff? And he was like, I want to be making movies. I can't believe you've done all this stuff. Oh, you want it. So it's like, it's so funny, because like I'm looking at all these people up here being like, oh, I wish I was there. And then it never occurred to me that like, like you're saying, there's all these little, because then there's someone else who's like, oh, I want to get to where you are. And that's like interesting to be like,
the dynamic is fascinating.
Yeah, it's like you really do just have to like just focus on your own.
Yeah,
like
because this business is completely different from any other industry like that. I've explained it to other people. Like with teachers, you go to school, you get your degree, and then you become a teacher, and now you're a teacher, and that's your job. But here, in the entertainment business, it's just all comparing. It's all seeing what other people do. Like there's so many different ways to be successful that even if you have a firm grip on what you personally want to do with your career, that because there's so many different ways of being successful, it's easy to get distracted because it gets into your head what other people are doing more than any other profession.
It's so bad. It's such a distraction. And I've had to just like learn to just, I just have to put in the work every day and I'll get there. But then also like my body of work isn't that good. Like it's getting better, but it's like, for me, it's like the movie I ended up making, Brand New Old Love, like it's okay. But to be honest, like by the time it was done, ready to come out, I hated it. And I was like, I made so many mistakes. And now I'm like, I just need to make another movie to show what I learned.
Right.
And it's like,
putting those lessons into practice for the next one.
Well, it's like, the thing that like, the only reason I'm even able to like sleep at night is the Ira Glass quote. It's hard when you first start off. I'm going to paraphrase this horribly, but tell me if it's phenomenal. But basically he says, like when you're first starting out, it's confusing because your taste, in this case as a filmmaker, like my taste as a filmmaker and like the work I'm putting out are mismatched.
Right. Okay.
And so it's like confusing. It's like, wait, how come my work isn't as good as like my taste is as I want it to be, as I think it should be? And it's like the only thing that closes that gap is volume.
Okay.
Money, yes. I think less than money, I think it is just practice. It's volume. Volume closes the gap. So it's like every time I make something, it'll get better. But then in my head, I feel like I'm the only person on the planet whose feature film didn't debut at Sundance.
Right.
But that's how I feel. And it's like, no, other people didn't get in too. And volume closes the gap.
I mean, people have told, and the numbers bear this out. It is harder to get into Sundance or South by Southwest than it is to get into Harvard.
Yeah, it's like 0.01%.
Yeah.
And even the ones who get in,
and every year's a new record.
Every year's a new record of how many submissions they have. And then even the ones that get in, though, like I think like 10% get distribution or make their money back.
Yeah, and even then
It's
it doesn't
really-
even, you know, I had, if not for the now defunct Amazon Film Festival Stars program, where they had a set amount that they gave to any movie that was in South by, Sundance, or I think TIFF was the third one. And if you were in this major festival, they had guaranteed non-recoupable
I remember
money.
seeing that.
Yeah, and
That's
if
really cool.
especially for South by, if you were in competition, it was a guaranteed $100,000. And they wanted you to take that money and market your picture.
Holy cow.
And it was just and you would still have the rights to put it on iTunes yourself or get separate theatrical or international, whatever. This was only for subscription video on demand, SVOD. So it eliminated Netflix or Hulu. And so you had to be an Amazon exclusive. But if you were in competition, it was $100,000 guaranteed. And if you were in the spotlight like we were, it was $25,000 guaranteed. And we were able to, so like even if we got one other offer from Gravitas, and if that had never come up, I would have taken the Amazon money, and that would have been that, but there wouldn't have been any other distribution. So here's a movie, everyone's like, I want to be in Sundance, I want to be at South by Southwest. Okay, now you've done that, and if nobody wants to distribute the movie after that anyway, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You know?
We're Gravitas too. Brandon will love us.
Yeah,
Gravitas.
exactly.
We haven't made any money back. I can get into that if you.
I mean, yeah, it's just a long road. I mean, it's a whole other.
Yeah.
You know, we can have a Gravitas bashing podcast.
Well, I mean, they don't promote anything.
They
They don't put any money towards promotion.
They put no money into it, which is
But
their
whatever.
prerogative.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm gonna still
Yeah.
pimp it out online as much as I can.
Sure.
and
Right.
let
You.
people know.
It's right. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But
but that's part of the battle. You think again,
Yeah.
it's part of the whole like the grass is greener. Oh, I just wish I was in South by. Well, guess what? Well, now you haven't like. Do you again? It goes to like, what do you really want? If you want to distribute your movie and you want to just have the world see it, being in South by Southwest isn't necessarily the dream come true that you think it would be. But if you want to be in South by Southwest but you don't get distribution, but you get to tell everybody that you were there, like again, you need to decide what you really want out of what you're doing.
I would assume.
'Cause it's
I
gonna
would have
mess
thought
you
it
up.
would have been like. I would have thought that South by Southwest for you would have not necessarily been getting over launching, but it would have been Jason career launching.
Yeah, and it's kind of been that, but yeah, in the same way, like I'm not on set directing anything right now. I'm recording a podcast.
What is it? What's your like ideal? Where are you going from here?
And it took me a really, really long time to even figure it out because, like I said, I never really wanted to be a director, but I would like to direct something now that I've kind of gotten a taste for it. And
Narrative?
yeah.
uh-huh.
And I've decided that for me, I would be professionally fulfilled if I can, by the time I hang them up, which is still many, many, many years away, if I can have one feature documentary, which I've got, and one feature narrative, and just to do it. And hopefully it would be great and it sells and it gets into festivals or whatever, but I just want to be able to say that I did that. And I've never written a feature script before, and I have a million unfinished things sitting on my computer.
I have a million
But
unfinished
a million
things
unfinished
too.
things.
Yeah, the unfinished game is real.
And one of the things I kind of want to ask you, I want to get back to the framework thing too, because having a day job can get in the way of that. So I have all this unfinished stuff that kind of, when I started working at Framework, now 13 years ago, kind of just had to go away because I had a full-time job that was more than a full-time job. It's post-production. There are late nights, and it just kind of takes you away from that. So I kind of decided that I just want to, for myself, write a script from start to finish. And I know there's a lot of writers out there that, can crank out dozens of scripts in a year. I just want to be able to finish one and be happy with it.
I can start a dozen, but not finish.
I just want to get from start to finish on one script and eventually shoot it myself. And if it sucks, it sucks. If it's good, that'd be great. But that's how I would consider myself a success as, as a creator, as a creative person. But professionally speaking, if I just do the work I'm doing now, like doing DCPs for other people, post, consulting, talking to people, even festival consulting. Now that I've been on the, the whole circuit, I help people if they have a question about like their festival strategy. I realized what I really want out of this business, and I should have done it 15, 20 years ago, is the people. I love meeting directors. I love meeting other filmmakers. I love talking about the business.
Yeah.
I love, like, for me, like, that's being in the business. Like, just sitting with another director and being like, what camera did you use to shoot your movie? Oh, what did this, you speak, how was that interview that you gave? Like, and just talking about our own experiences, like what we're doing here, whether it's on mic or off mic, that's what makes me creatively fulfilled and professionally fulfilled. So I still want to make one more picture. I'd love to make more after that, but I'm just going to start with one, and that'll make me happy. So that's kind of how it took me 2 years to shut out all that noise. Because the door opened and I was like, well, now I'm going to be hot shit director guy. But then when you walk through the door and you see 70,000 other directors in the waiting room and you realize you didn't walk into the office, you're just in the waiting room to get on to the next side. Then you start seeing what it's all about, and it helps you, redefine what you really want out of the business. Or else, like I said, it's going to pull you in so many different directions and you're not going to know. What you want. Yeah. Because it's easy to get distracted by what other people are doing.
That's the thing that I really have to just stop looking at other people, what they're doing, and worry that I'm getting too old, or worry that like I'm not. There's just looking at everyone else. Every year I'm like, oh, everyone's at Sundance but me.
Right. And I didn't go to Sundance.
Like,
I didn't go to Sundance this year.
But it's really hard to just like stay the course and focus on your own work.
Right.
So I finished filming Brand New Old Love, and I was like, man, this is exhilarating. I just wrote and directed my first narrative feature. Here we go. Like, my career's about to pop off. And then I was like, I need a job. And I didn't want to go back to bartending anymore. And a friend of mine was like, worked for Hulu in customer service for minimum wage, like $15 an hour at Hulu, and got me a job. And I remember I went to the like orientation. I'm sitting there and they're like, what are your favorite Hulu shows? Or what's your favorite TV shows? And somebody was like, I like You're the Worst. And someone else was like, I like Broad City. And Arturo was on Broad City. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just made a movie. I just directed these people
that are in these shows.
And now I'm just sitting here like, and then I did that for 1 week. And it was like, at the end of the week after taxes, I had $400. And I was like, this is like, I'm going to go. But it was just such a little amount of money for LA. Like, certainly I can get something better. And then my friend Tony was like, hey, Framework is looking for an editor who like has a background in comedy. And I was like, I don't know, Tony, like, I don't know Premiere that well. I had always cut.
I remember that.
On Final Cut. And I was like, and I've never been paid to edit. I had a huge body of work. I edited like tons of stuff, but just for myself and friends. I was like so worried I was going to walk in and someone was going to stand over my shoulder and like realize that I didn't know how to use all the keyboard shortcuts. And then I was going to be discovered as like a fraud. And Tony was like, you're going to be fine. Like, tell them this is your day rate, which I couldn't believe the number he told me I could say out loud. I was like, I just got,
can get paid well.
It was more than I just gotten for a week of working 40 hours of being like, I'm sorry you got charged $7 for Hulu. Let me refund you. It was horrible. So he was like, send them your work. I didn't have an editing reel, but I just like sent a ton of stuff I had edited.
You don't need an editing reel.
You just need like stuff.
I haven't looked at, as a post supervisor, I haven't looked at anyone's editing reel in 15 years.
And it makes sense because it's like an editing. It should be.
First of all, how can you see how someone edits in like a 3-minute reel?
Right.
Because now you're editing the work that you've edited. So that's already ridiculous.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, here's links to a ton of stuff I've edited. And then I remember going in and like I did the week and there was like a PA running around taking food orders. And I was like, Tony, do you think that like after this week, maybe I could be a PA here? Like maybe I could take the food orders.
You've already jumped that.
Even sitting there as an editor getting paid much more than that, I was just like, I'll do that. Like maybe I can like be the PA.
Because at least the PA is like, he's an employee.
He's an employee. He's working there. He's not free, but it's like, it's something.
Right.
And then Warner Brothers liked my cuts, but then also like I remember I took time off. I took like a month off at one point to edit What's Eating Ralphie May, and then I had to go back to work because I needed money, and then I would work until 8 p.m. take an Adderall that I bought from a teenager, and come home and stay up all night.
Not recommended, but
I'm just being honest. Like this is how I played the game. This is how the game gets played. But I would like get off work at Framework, take an Adderall, and then come home and stay up like all night and work on editing my documentary on the side,
So it was just nonstop at that point.
Yeah. But now I have like a sweet spot because I'm not editing the documentary anymore. So now I get up in the morning at 6 and I write from 6 to 9 and then go into work. But I think it's like really important to like make your day work for you. Like you kind of have to like for huge chunks of time, probably like 2 whole years, I was just going into framework and like not working on like anything else. My documentary took me a long time. I shot it in 2015. It just premiered in Nashville Festival in October 2019. But the main subject died in 2017, so that changed a lot of the edit. But for me, like, it was really important to, like, instead of being like, oh, I have a day job, so I can't do whatever. And I love framework. I enjoy editing. It's at least like in my field. It's not like a customer service minimum wage job. So, and I love everyone at Framework. It's a wonderful company, I think.
One of the things, again, that I'm interested in talking to people about is, especially people that don't direct as a full-time job just yet, the balance of working a full-time job and not just one that's, bartending or, or waitressing, where when you're done for the day, you leave it behind, with editing and stuff. At least for me, like, I'm constantly thinking about all the stuff we're working on. It's constantly running through my mind.
Yeah.
And then you have to fit in time to work on your own creative stuff and to do all of those things at the same time. It gets very, very difficult.
It's really hard. I mean, I feel like for the same thing. So with What's Eating Ralphie May, it's probably took an extra 2 years to finish that it would not have had I not had to have a full-time job.
It's not like it's not a bad thing per se, but if you're, an impatient person like myself, and like I like to get things done like as soon as possible. So like to drag it out over 6 years can be excruciating.
It's a little embarrassing, and sometimes I think like, Lana, like Ralphie's wife, like the other like main subject in the film, I think, she'd be like, why is this took so long? Why is it taking so long? And would get frustrated. And I'm like, well, I need money. Like, I live in LA. I have to work. I have a full-time job. And that just got really hard. And I wasn't all the time like working, but like, I mean, most weekends, like I can't tell you how many like social functions I turned down to go home and edit and just sit in front of my computer and edit. But writing and editing are so different. But so now it's so nice that I don't have to edit now on the side, because editing is it's just very taxing. It's like putting together a puzzle. Like, and I enjoy it, but it's a lot. It was a lot to edit all day and then come home and edit for hours, if you will. But yeah, I mean, What's Eating Ralphie May should have come out in like 2017, 2018 max. And like, it just took so much longer, but it's really nice. I think it's really hard to, like, the huge chunks of time, like I said, 1 year, 2 years, where I'm just working and not doing anything else is like, I just think like it's. And you're also married now too. So you were also getting married and planning a wedding and stuff. So so when you're working at Framework, and so you're editing at work, coming home, trying to write, trying to edit, also trying to and you're getting closer to your now husband, and your relationship is developing. Like, how do you juggle all of those balls and not like drop any of them? It's hard. That's probably more a question for him. I think. Right. He's got to be very understanding. He's very supportive. He's very, very supportive, because he believes in me. He's proud of the work I do. And for him, it's like that this can only help us get out of this apartment. So he's like, do this to help get us out of here. He sees the light at the end of the tunnel. He sees what you're doing is part of a pathway. Right. But then he would complain sometimes. Like, I remember when we came back from our honeymoon, there was like a month where I was just like, I wasn't doing anything but working and then editing the documentary. And he was like, there's like all these things I want to go to and you're not coming with me. And I'm like, I just took all this time off for our honeymoon. Like, I've got to get the festival submission deadlines are coming up. Right. Of course, I didn't know any better. And I was like, this is the year this film is going to get into Sundance. So I have to be ready for this festival submission, like not knowing what I know now about that whole game. Well, but it's hard to juggle. It's very similar too, because I mean, during the production of Getting Over, I was also like, I had met my wife was one of the, when we were dating, she was one of the original Kickstarter supporters. Is that how you met her? That is, no, we actually met on Match.com. Oh, okay, but great. We had, back when it was called Match.com and not just Match app or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, we were in the very, very, very early stages of our dating when she gave to the Kickstarter. And she's told me ever since, and she's like, if it didn't work out, I'd have to be seeing these Kickstarter updates from you all the time.
So she was like secretly like, it better fucking work out or else I'm going to have to like cut this guy off. Like, I want to see that his movie's doing well if I, if we broke up.
Oh, that's
But
so
the whole
funny.
time, and that was like in 2013 and we got married in mid 2014. So it's just been this again. And so you add it all up, like late nights at Framework, trying to work on the movie at the same time while your relationship is developing. And at least for me, something had to sit. So the movie, Getting Over, just kind of sat for probably, like I said, an extra year or two. That, again, if I hadn't worked at Framework, I would have been working on it the whole time.
Right. But you have to work.
I had to work. And I would come home, like I said, at 10 o'clock at night sometimes. The last thing I'm going to do is sit down and start working on my movie again. My new wife wants to spend time with her new husband.
Right.
And like I'm already coming home late at night.
Yeah.
And it was just it had gotten something had to fall by the wayside.
It's hard.
And I knew I was always going to finish the picture. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten into South by 2017 or South by Southwest 2019.
Yeah.
Like it all kind of
came together
at that very specific time. But when you're going through it, you don't know that.
Right.
You don't know, what that, where the exit is on that freeway.
Right.
So just for my own sanity, I'm like, listen, this thing is going to get done. It's my personal story. I'm not going to let this thing sit forever. Even though, like I said, I've got a million other things that are sitting on my computer that are undone. This one's going to get done. But right now, I got to spend some time with my wife.
Yeah.
Right. So you just have to be able to, again, like realize that, prioritize. And again, that's also when, as the movie sits for months and nothing would happen, and I wouldn't necessarily, I'd feel bad, like, oh, I should have spent more time with it. But then again, that's when other things start to seep in and you see other people, know? And it was one of the things that when you guys first released Ralphie May, and I was like, I wouldn't say pissed off, but I was like, man, she did one feature. She's working at Framework. She just did another feature. Now I'm hearing from you now, like you shot these things at different times.
Yeah.
But,
I shot both of them before I started working at Framework.
Exactly. But when you're an outsider, you don't know that. And I'm like, how the fuck did she shoot another movie while she was working at Framework? Why can't I do that? And again, you get it into your mind that other people are living this glamorous, I'm making movies all but it's just not what it is.
Right.
And it's really the whole point of the show is to introduce people like you to the audience and to the public at large and realize it's not Taika Waititi didn't wake up one morning and just have Jojo Rabbit.
Right.
Like that shit took a long fucking time.
It took a long time. You know what I just heard the statistic that like I think it was for female directors, but I imagine I'm sure that it's similar for all directors, but like it takes the average time between a first feature and a second for narrative is like 10 years.
Wow.
So it's
shocking.
But it's like, but I hear you on like you were saying how Getting Over was shot on video. So What's Eating Ralphie May, I shot that in 2015. I shot it with a C300, but it's the original C300, it's 1080. So I'm editing this in 2017, 2018, 2019. This Mark II's come out, everything's 4K now. They're saying, oh, Netflix doesn't take anything that's not 4K. And people are saying, I've got that in the back of my head, and I'm editing something shot on 1080.
And I'm already.
We're so behind.
Defunct
This is
technology.
exactly like can this come out because it's 1080. And I'm also like I didn't even know when I shot it about shooting flat for color. I learned that when I made Brand New Old Love.
New thing. Yeah.
So I shot it. I didn't shoot it right. Like I was one man band. I shot it by myself, and I just made so many mistakes on that too. I mean, between What's Eating Ralphie May and Brand New Old Love, I made so many mistakes, but it's like I hope that and they did both take so long to make. Brand New Old Love too, like so I shot Brand New Old Love. We shot in 2016. That didn't come out until 2018.
Right.
Post took a really long time, probably mostly because I was working, even though I wasn't even the editor, but. And then just like figuring out distribution, getting rejected from all the festivals. The same with What's Eating Ralphie May. But it's like, I still love all of it. Like, I can't wait to make another one. Like, it's like, sign me up again.
Right.
And it's like, I'm like, maybe.
Glutton for punishment.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's what we do.
Maybe, but that's what we do. So like, I hope that it's not just like, no one wants to hear that a movie takes 5 years. Like when I was shooting What's Eating Ralphie May in 2015, I thought I'm going to put this out at the end of this year.
Right.
And like
I was promising people their kicks. I mean, we had our Kickstarter in the 2013, and I was like, it'll be ready the middle of 2014.
Yeah, right. And nobody a filmmaker listening to this wants to hear that it's going to take all these years, and maybe it won't, but it's like, even if it does, it's still like the whole, I mean, I wouldn't,
the journey is the reward.
Trade it for anything.
Yeah.
And like, I just want to keep making stuff, and like, hopefully the next thing I make will do better and be better. And as long as like, I'm never, my dad always said, never go backwards. So as long as I'm moving forward with the things I make, then we'll just keep making them. But it is hard. Like, I haven't made anything new since I started at Framework, but I'm writing a lot right now, and I'm very I did finish 2 things while I was there, and that was very hard. But now I'm writing, and I'm really hopeful. I'm hoping to make a couple things summer, fall, and we'll see. But it is like, that's the beauty of freelancing, is you can take time off.
Do you feel worried that if you take too much time away from the day job to shoot something, that
they'll forget about me?
Yeah, that it might not be there when you get back? Because that's
every time. I
mean, and it probably will be, but like, that's just one of the concerns we have to deal with when you're trying to, shoot something on your own, but you need to support, like, and we had said, like, you didn't take a salary on these things. So you're working for free, basically. So you need a day job to support that, not only to finance part of the picture, but to live and pay your rent and pay bills. But it's just a lot to deal with.
I would always worry about it. Every time I would take time off from Framework, the whole time I would like text Tony, how's the freelancer doing? Like, do they like him more than me? Like, am I going to be replaced? And knock on wood, they've asked me back, and I hope that continues. But yeah, of course, that's always on my mind every time I take a week off there. And then actually last year, my dad got sick and was dying, and so I ended up taking like a lot of time off to go to Atlanta and like take care of him. Right. You just can't.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it. You
can't do this thing. I took a month off for my honeymoon, like good and bad things I've been able to take time off for. But now I'm like, it's just, LA is expensive, and like a lot of the money I was making, I was putting towards my documentary and stuff. So I really need to be working every chance I get. So I'll never turn down a day so I love going in, but now I've finally figured out how to make it work for me, and write in the morning before work, and I couldn't do that for a long time.
Maximize your time.
I actually call it a maximum day.
Yeah.
If I have a maximum day, it's like if I wrote, I worked, I exercised, and I like ate well, I'm like, and spent time with my husband, I'm like, I had a maximum day.
Did it all. You can have all the things.
I have my little habit journal
Great.
that I've started, and I like mark off my
These are good ideas,
stuff.
people.
This is very.
Listen, if you need to have
the habit journal has really been like game changer for me.
What's your plan for your next step to get your next project out there?
So I have a dark comedy that I'm writing, and my plan is to, once the script is in a place where I'm ready to show it, my plan is to hire
the casting
director, and then I know who I want my cast to be, and one of them is like someone who was in Brandon Would Love, so I want to reach out to him and see if he's interested.
Great.
And then I know who I want my female lead to be, and I have a connection to her through an organization I'm with, so I'm basically gonna like just like try to attach these 2 leads, and then I have a couple like leads on funding, but they'll probably say no.
Do you still have those same guys that gave you before?
No, so actually the funny story.
I was like, well, at least you have that $50,000 guy.
No, so that guy, so he was trying to experiment with self-releasing indie films. He had like 3 films that year, that 2 out of Sundance, that he was like putting in money to like self-distribute and self-promote, and then he got so frustrated with it. He was like, you know what? I can't make money, and there's no way for indie films to make money. I'm out. And he like moved to Colorado.
Wow.
And so he used to
he had to, that self-care. He realized
it was like,
it's not for him anymore. I got to go do something else.
Yeah. Nope. Done. So I don't have.
And listen, that's good that to have the wherewithal and to have the self-awareness to know.
Yeah.
To not, try to jam a square peg into a round hole.
Right.
If it's not working and you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it.
Right. Oh, but I want to say, sorry, if you don't, I've had too much caffeine.
By all means.
You said something about how this is for like mental health stuff.
Yes. I mean, it's just all about, showing other people, other filmmakers specifically, the trials and tribulations of what we do.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, when people watch the Oscars and they see the tuxedos and the dresses, and there's just for grunts like us, there's just a disconnect of, between the work and the accolades. Yeah. And what people, and people always just think the grass is greener. The journey is part of the reward, and know that you're not alone.
Right.
And just that, at least for me, just knowing that and hearing other people's stories soothes my soul. and lets me know that I'm not going through this alone. Other people are experiencing the business the same way. And just knowing that brings me a bit of a comfort that eases me.
That's beautiful.
Eases my heart and lets me continue doing this work, without having to worry so much anymore. It's always going to be work.
Right.
It's the work. It's part of the journey is the work.
Right.
And if you put that time in, you'll reap those benefits eventually, hopefully.
Yeah. I think sometimes people think that, so I love that. So this is like your form of self-care.
This is interviewing people like you brings, soothes it's my therapy. It soothes my soul to hear other people's struggles. Not to celebrate the struggles,
of course,
but again, to just feel like we're not going through this alone. And this business, and it's not even like this business, the film business. It's just like the entertainment industry operates so differently than every other industry, not only in America but in the world.
Right.
But nobody teaches you how to deal with the business.
Yeah.
And you can read Variety, you can know what's happening, but again, like until you're in it and doing it, but there's no guidance.
I don't think you even
there's
can.
No guidance.
I don't think you can be taught. You just have to
do it.
You just have to be in it, and then it's like, oh, this is how it works.
Right. And for some people, especially people who don't live in LA, that think that they have to move to LA or that they have to move to New York or whatever, anyone that I've met, just their own personal experiences. Again, it just in our business, it's too easy to gauge your own success by someone else's experiences. And that doesn't happen anywhere else. And I just want to help people kind of learn how to get a grip on that a little bit, because it's easy to let that get away. And that's when you wake up one morning and you're like, I don't know what I want to do anymore. I thought I wanted to be a director, but being a director is not just waking up and going and shoot. It's the whole hustle.
That's something that I've in learning now too. Is I have these pie in the sky, I want to make this other movie and direct it, but I have these big things, but then it's little things every day that you have to do instead of you're not going to just wake up and be directing something. It's like these little, you really have to put in a little bit every single day. But you put in a little bit every day instead of, because I was waiting to have a time. I would be like, oh, I need to take a week off to write. And then I would not write for 6 months to a year and to take this week off. And then I get overwhelmed with how much I needed to write and not write. But now I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a lot of pressure and nothing would get done. I would eat nachos and watch Netflix instead of write. Now it's like, oh, I'm just going to write a little bit. And just, if I even one little thing on a page, if that's all I get out of a morning, then it's now I'm actually working towards something. So it's I have something I'm actively working towards instead of just this kind of pie in the sky. But
it'll just kind of happen on its own somehow.
Yeah. So it's no, it's just winning the day, just today. All that matters is today, just winning today. And just winning today is doing a little bit of self-care, writing, whatever that is. And that's, I think the next thing I make will be better and it won't take as long, right? Because it's I've learned that
you've got a better grip on your own workflow
and on my own workflow and on my day. I have this book I'm reading about artists and what their daily habits were, and it's so interesting. And you really do have to have it's they did this every day.
Discipline.
A
little bit of discipline. So does that worry you then that you're going to spend all this time writing a script while working at Framework and having these, maximum days where you're getting a lot of stuff done, but now your path to financing has now kind of been removed from that. So do you feel like maybe you're spinning your wheels?
No, well, I haven't.
Keep doing your thing?
Just going to keep doing. I haven't tried to get funding yet for my next project, but I think it'll be very difficult. But I'm hoping that What's Eating Ralphie May will sell soon, and maybe that could help. But I'm just going to take the tools I have from my experiences and the mistakes I've made, the things I've learned, and see if I can make it work. Network, and just have a good script, attach a couple name actors, and then it's a numbers game. Send 100 emails for funding, and maybe one person will write back.
Do you at least, and I ask everybody this when I wrap stuff up, do you feel happy with where you're at now? Obviously you don't feel happy with you're still going to work towards something, working towards but in general, in your life, being married, having, framework, having your movies out there for other people to see, are you generally happy with your state of life right now?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
And sometimes, and I've also met, like, it's not, and I've also redefined it a little bit, because I used to think happiness was a goal. I make my picture, I sell my picture, I'll be happy. But I'm also starting to realize, talking to a lot of people, that happiness is more in the journey than in that final destination. So, I mean, and it's okay. Like, I'm not completely 100% happy with where I'm at now, and I'm always working on it, professionally and personally. But do you feel happy with your state of being right now?
I mean, I guess I'm loving life. I guess I'm in general happy. I'm not like depressed right now, but I'm very excited about where things can and hopefully will go this year. But no, I mean, I wouldn't say, no, I still don't feel like I still feel very behind. Like I still feel like, but that's interesting. And I'm like, oh no, like, so I'm going to make this film this summer. And then I have this other thing I'm going to do. And then when I sell my pilot, and then when I lose 30 pounds, and when I get a house with a yard, these are like, there's all these things like personally and professionally where I'm like, no, I'm trying to get there. And then but then it's like, I'm sure once you get there.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to want something else.
You're always going to want something else.
Sometimes, the path of life is going to take you in many different directions.
Right.
Even while you're doing these things. Right. So there has to be some way to find, again, some peace and some happiness in the process itself.
In the day-to-day.
Yeah, because I don't want to get to a place where it's like, all right, I'm going to shoot this feature this summer, and this will get done, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. And then if something breaks up my mental picture of what it'll be, like all of a sudden now I'm unhappy. Like I don't want that. That's happened for me too many times before, where it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to go. So I'm not fully happy, but I don't want to feel that way anymore. So I'm kind of redefining not what happiness is per se, but how I apply that definition to my life.
That's interesting.
So I don't wake up and be like, I'm happy just, again, even if it's not a maximum day, just getting out of bed sometimes and just coming here and recording the show. That's a success.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be happy with that success.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm going to go home and I'm going to have a great, Valentine's Day dinner with my wife and be happy with it.
Yeah.
And we'll watch a movie, and that's success. Yeah. That's happiness.
And like, I love that. I'm going to get paid well at Framework to edit. That's cool. I'm grateful to have that. I'm grateful for like my friends and family, my husband, my dog, like, and I'm loving life right now. I have a lot of goals that I'm working towards, and I'm not there yet, personally and professionally. Like I said, I want to get out of this apartment, but I am, like, in general, I'm happy. I'm taking care of myself, and I'm loving life.
That's great.
And so my dad died last year, and it's so crazy how, like, watching someone close to you get sick, like, that really puts things into perspective.
Absolutely.
It's like when you stop being able to walk, and then it's like, oh man, like every day I can walk. Like, I just you gotta be like,
it's the little things.
So I just am trying to be appreciative and grateful for every day I can take a step.
It's great. That's great. Well, Kat Rhinehart, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for allowing me into your house for this discussion. It's been very enlightening. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it. And,
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate
it. The next time you finish a picture, we'll have you back on. We can talk about some more successes and the whole path getting there. But
can't wait.
And I'm sure it'll happen. So until then, thanks for joining me. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there you have it, our interview with Kat Rhinehart, director of What's Eating Ralphie May, playing right now in the Atlanta Film Festival with an actual real live screening at a drive-in theater next week on the 24th of September. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, we're doing a little call for reviews. If you liked the show, if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, whatever your platform of choice is to listen to this podcast, drop us a little review, drop us a little blurb. We'd really appreciate it. I'd really appreciate it. This is a solo mission here, and I love bringing you guys these great interviews. I can't wait to bring you guys some more. If you also want to support the show, I don't have a Patreon or anything just yet, but you can buy me a cup of coffee if you go to our official website at headabovewaterpodcast.com. In the lower right-hand corner of the website is a little cup of coffee. And if you click that, you can just drop a couple of bucks into the till there. buy me a coffee, keep me caffeinated, keep the show on the air. It'll go to pay for hosting. It'll go to pay for advertising. And, I don't want to do these shows with advertisements. It's very important to me not to have advertisements on this show. So if you want to show your support for the show, drop a couple bucks in the till, buy me a coffee, keep me caffeinated, keep these shows coming at you. You can also stay informed online on social media with all the goings-on our upcoming shows. On Facebook, we are at Head Above Water Podcast. Instagram, Head Above Water Podcast. The official website, like I said, is headabovewaterpodcast.com. And you can also check us out on Twitter at headaboveh2opod, because they are on DOS and they don't allow long file names. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you all so very much for all your support. Stay tuned for more episodes. On next week's show, we have You Know Her, You Love Her. She's one of the true champions of micro-budget independent filmmaking around today. From Bread and Butter, from Speed of Life, we have the fantastic Liz Manishill will be joining us. We have a wonderful conversation, so stick around for that. Thank you guys for all your support. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.